And, it's not just hot flashes that we're talking about when we talk about these kind of symptoms. We're talking about pain during sex, vaginal dryness, insomnia, mood, anxiety, dry skin, difficulty concentrating, a lack of energy, exhaustion. So there's a lot of things that go along with it. And I think that's what makes it so confusing because we look at those and, for me anyway, I was operating in silos with each one. Oh, I can't sleep. Maybe I'm drinking too much caffeine too late. Oh, I'm feeling anxious. Maybe it's, leftover anxiety from my divorce. Oh, my periods are weird. It's stress. So every one of those I always had some kind of answer for. And little did I know that the answer was the one thing that it's been the best kept secret, quite frankly, out there, is that this happens during some very important years in a woman's life and some very stressful years in a woman's life. And there's nobody that says, hey, listen, when you get to be about 40 years old, you should start thinking about the changes that your body's going through and how your hormones are going to fluctuate.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Love. Today I am joined by our guest who I've been so excited to meet, Tamsen Fadal. Thank you for joining us, Tamsen.
Gosh, thanks for having me. Nice to see you.
I love preparing for these interviews because you learn so much. I mean, this is why I'm doing what I do, because I get to learn so much about our guests as well as learn from you. You have had such a varied career. You started out as a journalist, an award-winning journalist for 30 years. And now you've changed your direction, and now you're working to help women manage with menopause, learn about menopause, and be an advocate and educator. And just so tell us about your journey. And Tamsen, what I do want to talk about today, because this is Let's Talk Love, is you did have a journey, you did have a career as a matchmaker. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Really, that was like, oh my gosh, we have to talk about that too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been incredible. There are over 1 billion women who are going to be in menopause by the year 2025. So we have a lot of work to do. This transition came about from an experience that I had at work in the workplace. I landed on the bathroom floor during a live broadcast and didn't know what was going on. Didn't know the word perimenopause. Didn't even think about menopause, and wound up after going to a series of doctors, finding out that I was in menopause with a note in my patient portal, 4 words: in menopause, any questions? And that set me down the road of asking a lot of questions. And those questions came from like, how did this happen? Am I too young for this? Which I found out I wasn't. To what are all these symptoms and what was happening before this? And fast forward a few years now, we have been working on a documentary for the past 3 years, myself and three fellow producers and filmmakers, and it's called The M Factor: Shredding the Silence on Menopause. I left my job about a year ago now to really focus full time on that and talk about helping train workplaces to help women better manage these symptoms. There are so many women that are going through this right now in the US and around the world, and there's no shortage of questions that all of us have about how to better prepare ourselves.
So, Tamsin, can you talk about your experience? You said you were in the middle of a broadcast, and you share the story that you think you were having a panic attack,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I didn't know what I was having. I know,
No.
yeah, I was like inferno from the inside. I was sweating everywhere. Heart was racing, and I felt like I was going to be sick or fall over. I didn't have control of myself, and I knew that. And so I said out loud, "If I fall over, somebody catch me." And our sports anchor said, "Oh, you know what? I think you better get off the set and follow me." And I walked to the women's bathroom, and I promptly went down to the floor. And I think that at the time I was like, did I eat something? Am I having anxiety? But I've been in that business for 30 years, so I was never nervous. And I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know that menopause causes hormonal chaos. I didn't know that all these symptoms leading up to this, not sleeping, waking up in the middle of the night, weight gain in weird places, moody, irritability, anxiety, all those things are part of this hormonal journey and transition. And once I realized that, I couldn't stop asking questions about it. And more I realized that there weren't a lot of answers, I went in search of those answers through the documentary and then a book that I wrote called How to Menopause, and just kind of a manual and a guide to help women through this time.
Well, I'm 47, and I don't know for certain, but when I'm talking to my girlfriends, I've got, a lot of my best friends we're in the same, we're all 47. And it's funny because I was talking to my best friend Kirsten just yesterday, and she's like, well, I've been in menopause for 2 years. I did not know that. So what is the definition of menopause, for example? It's with Can we go through that first? Like
Oh,
just like the
what is
101s.
pause?
I think this is really important, right? Because there's a lot of listeners that
Yeah.
are maybe not experiencing it yet or are in it or like the perimenopause compared to menopause, even
Yeah,
just
I mean, sure,
definitions.
menopause, like long and short, is one day in your life. It is this natural transition in a woman's life
Hmm.
where it marks the end of her menstrual cycles. A woman hasn't had a period for 12 months. They're in menopause now. All the years that lead up to that are perimenopause, and that's that transition we're talking about with all these different symptoms. A woman's body has lots of different amounts of estrogen and progesterone, and those are hormones produced by the ovaries, and that can begin in your early 40s and it can last for years. And, it's not just hot flashes that we're talking about when we talk about these kind of symptoms. We're talking about pain during sex, vaginal dryness, insomnia, mood, anxiety, dry skin, difficulty concentrating, a lack of energy, exhaustion. So there's a lot of things that go along with it. And I think that's what makes it so confusing because we look at those and for me anyway, I was operating in silos with each one. Oh, I can't sleep, maybe I'm drinking too much caffeine too late. Oh, I'm feeling anxious, maybe it's leftover anxiety from my divorce. Oh, my periods are weird, it's stress. So every one of those I always had some kind of answer for, and little did I know that the answer was the one thing that it's been the best kept secret, quite frankly, out there, is that this happens during some very important years in a woman's life and some very stressful years in a woman's life. So around 40 years old is where, we should start asking women and talking to women about this change, because that is when that change is going to start happening. And you start looking at perimenopause during those years, 7 to 10 years before you hit menopause.
7 to 10 years. And so when you had your hot flash, anxiety, panic attack, which you realized that was what that was, part of menopause, were you in the perimenopause stage? With like you said, it was like
I was
you're experiencing all these.
at that point. I didn't know it. I was in menopause when
Yeah.
I, all leading up to that, when I had irregular periods, when I wasn't sleeping, when I was gaining weight, that was all perimenopause. I just had no idea. I
Hmm.
just had no idea.
So something that I learned during when I watched the documentary is that a woman is never out of menopause. Like once you're in
Yeah.
menopause, you are in menopause for the rest of your life. That was like, wow, that was a learning for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're in it forever. I mean, it's
Yeah.
postmenopausal, but that doesn't mean you're in those same symptoms forever. I mean that, those kind of, I'm postmenopausal and I have been now. And so it's, do I get hot flashes from time to time? Sure. Do I wake up at night? Sure. But overall, I'm on hormone therapy and that has really helped immensely. And those symptoms start to kind of stabilize. And so I feel like I'm in that stabilization place some days. And that feels pretty good. So that's nice to know. And I do feel on the other side of it a lot of difference. I feel better. I feel more confident. I feel very free in a lot of different ways. And so I never want it to be something that women are dreading. I just want them to be aware of it and understand, what comes with it so they're not suffering. And that's the worst thing that can happen, is that we have women out there suffering, and there's not a need to do that, because there are solutions out there and we do need more.
Right. So, can you share with us those solutions? Because this part of the documentary, because I was
Mhm.
talking to, okay, I've got like, my nursing friends and just
Right.
people in general. I'm just talking about menopause now with I'm so glad that there's more awareness and that we're actually talking about this as
Mhm.
women. And there is miseducation and we're misinformed around what can we do
Yeah.
to treat menopause.
Yeah.
Like HRT therapy, I believe there's a lot of misunderstanding and this overall fear around using hormone replacement therapy because of studies that are showing you can get breast cancer from using HRT,
Yeah.
right? Which is a
So
legitimate
there
fear,
was a 2002 study that
right?
really did a disservice to women and doctors and the the whole healthcare system, quite frankly. But I think right now, the most important thing to know is that there are solutions. Hormone replacement therapy or hormone therapy is one of those. It's not for everybody, and not everybody can take it. There are some people that just cannot, depending on what's going on in their life and in their health. And, I'm not a doctor, so I have to, say that up front that that's not my area of expertise. Mine is to try to educate about, what's out there, that there are solutions out there, and that you've got to find a doctor that knows what's going on. And I think that that's really where my message
Yes.
begins, and where I want my voice to be the loudest. And, in terms of other solutions, there are a lot of lifestyle solutions out there that you probably hear talking more about, which is we talk about nutrition. We talk about exercising a little bit differently. We talk about how to deal with sleep. We talk about stress management. We're talking about different things for sex. And so we're talking about different ways that women can go through whatever these symptoms are, because everybody goes through menopause in a different way. Some people might have hot flashes. Some people might never have one. Some people might have vaginal dryness. Other people sail through that part of it. But all of us will experience that transition if we're lucky to live long enough. And so I just want women to be prepared for that. And if they feel like they walk into a doctor's office and they feel like they're not being listened to, or they feel like they're being ignored, or they feel like they're being gaslit, then they've got to find somebody that will listen to them. And I think that's the most important message that we can give, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of people that want to jump in and sell you something that's probably not, the one all solution to it. If someone tells you they have a magic menopause pill, I'm pretty sure you don't have to worry about that. But it's important that women know what they're dealing with, because I think when you know that, you have even more confidence.
I really like that advice, Tamsin. So how did you, this is what Kirsten was saying to me yesterday, because I mean, first of all, I didn't know she was the 2 years she'd been suffering through these symptoms. Like we didn't talk about it, right?
Hmm.
So that's one piece. And the second was she said she did go to the doctor because she's like, I want to, she was advocating for herself to get a
Hmm.
prescription for HRT. And she went to a private doctor who said, absolutely, like this is and gave her some education on these are the different things that you could try.
Hmm.
And then, but suggested she go to her, her public doctor so that it could be prescribed and covered
Right.
by healthcare.
Right.
And it was the public doctor that said, are you sure you really want to do that? Like, how bad are your symptoms really? I don't think this is the right route for you. And if
Right.
you think you can handle it, I would suggest, doing it naturally. And it's like, she's like, no, I don't want that.
Good
So
for
she
her.
really had, this is what you're saying. We want to
Yeah.
find a doctor that will support us and that knows
Yeah.
about menopause.
Yeah.
How was that in your experience? Like, did you have to go to see, like the first doctor didn't work, and then the second, okay,
Yeah,
this,
I went through my share of them, and I think the first one that gave me that notice in my patient portal and menopause any questions, that was clearly not somebody that was looking to help me find some solutions, and that was really uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to think like, now what do I do? But some of the other doctors, one did prescribe HRT, but I didn't understand enough about it. So I was confused. Another one said to go through it naturally because I didn't want to do that. And another one came back to HRT. So I feel like I ran the gamut of a lot of those answers. And, when I finally found a doctor that I trusted and felt good with, it just made all the difference in the world, honestly.
yeah. Well, I'm very excited to read your book. It's coming out. When is it? What's the day is it coming? It's coming out,
March
Tamsin?
25th,
March
25.
25th. Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited to have, I hope we'll have you back on and to talk about your
Thank
book
you.
then.
I would love that. I
But
would love that.
so in the meantime, like for me, okay, I'm 47 years old. I think
Okay.
I'm experiencing some perimenopause stuff for
Yeah.
sure. I know I am. Like waking
I'm
up, my bed's soaked. It's like I'm having major like night sweats,
Yeah.
those sorts
I
of
hear you.
things.
I
Yeah,
hear you.
and I feel like I need to exercise differently because my body's changing. Like I used to be doing boot camps like 5 days a
Yeah.
week, and I'm like, my body's saying, Robin, there's
Why are
something
you
you need
doing
to do.
this?
Some, yeah, right. So, what do you suggest, like that women do during the perimenopause stage?
Yeah, I mean, my I'm the same way. My workouts definitely changed. There's no question about it. What I could handle, but also what I wanted to do and what was helping my body.
Right.
And for me, I do strength training 3 days a week. I walk a lot. I walk with weights. I enjoy that time for two things because I feel like it's multi-purpose for my body and also just for my mindset. And I think with regard to diet, I've really changed my nutrition habits. I look at it very differently. I came from the era of like, work out really hard, eat very little, and you'll be great. And that's not what I do anymore. Everything I put in my body, I know what it does to me, what it's not going to do to me, how it's going to make me feel, and I feel better about that. I have my cheat days. I love pizza. I love my champagne. I'm not perfect. But I try my best to know exactly what things do to me to feel as good as I can. So those are the two areas I think that have changed quite a bit for me. And then with regard to sleep, I don't take it for granted anymore. And so I'm very appreciative of a good night's sleep. And I'm
Yeah.
very cognizant that I have to work toward it. I don't just pop into bed and hope I can fall asleep. It's really, I have a setup. I have a wind down, a setup, and I take it seriously now.
I really think this is awesome because really what it is so much more listening to this, is what you advocate, right? Is like listening
Yeah.
to your body, listening to yourself. What do
Yeah.
you need? And honoring it and giving yourself a lot of self love and care,
Yes,
right?
100%. I think you have to do that. Look,
Yeah.
if you're not going to take the time to do that for yourself, no one's going to do it for you. And I think it's really, really important to do that. Take care of yourself. Pay attention to what's going on. Listening to your body, listening to your symptoms. Listening to how you want to feel. I think that's really, really important. And I think that as women, we've always kind of put ourselves last in that equation, and it's time to stop doing that, especially during this transition.
Right. And the other piece to this, which you talk about in the documentary, all these women, first of all, we're going through this, like, we go through so much like, as a woman, right, in our bodies. And it's it's like honoring the aging process because I don't know if our culture will it change because I think women are just there's so much pressure to be
Yeah.
this size and
Yeah.
to age backwards not
Yeah.
forwards and we really it's almost like we need to shut that off, like that's enough. Aging is a blessing.
Yeah.
And could we talk about that for Tamsin, like just how are you um helping women to really start looking at that differently and being like just screw off. Like I am not like I am not here to age backwards. I actually am grateful that I'm aging. Every day that I'm alive is a blessing and I want to be beautiful and all these things, but it's not about preventing aging.
Yeah, yeah, it's not about preventing aging at all. I really think it's about understanding where you are, feeling good about it. I don't think that I've seen more women feeling bolder and sexier and stronger than I have recently, and I think that's
Yeah.
exciting. I'm very aware that women of a certain age feel oftentimes invisible and not so relevant, but I think that there is a lot to say for the fact that we are changing that narrative bit by bit, and I think that that's really exciting.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about your history before. Maybe let me know, when were you working as a matchmaker, Tamsin? So you started. Was this before you were a journalist?
No, no, no. It was at the same time. I
Oh,
was
at the same time.
Yeah, my former husband and I had a business doing that in New York when we first moved to New York, and so we had a matchmaking business, and we're doing dating coaching back then, and it was a different time. It wasn't a time
Yeah.
with a lot of different apps, and there was no swiping, any direction, and so it was really a fun time. When we moved to New York, we had learned the statistic of there was 100,000 more single women than men in the city. We looked at that. We threw some different parties. We put a little black book together to, talk about, to help people try to find partners. And so that was a fun time. It was a fun time to learn, what dating was going on in the city, how people were interacting, helping people meet each other. So, it was a lifetime ago, but a good time.
Yeah. And what would you, I mean, you were giving dating coaching and you're now married, like remarried to, like you married later in life again. So how would you coach differently than you did back then, right?
Yeah,
When it
good
comes to
question.
dating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, well, I think that everything has changed since back then, quite frankly. And I think
Yeah.
that, we've learned who we are even better than before. I think we see things more than we ever have before. We have more access to other people. So I think that I take all those into consideration. I do think that, for me anyway, if I was doing it today, I look at all the different ways to meet people, and I still think that you have to be open to all of those ways, whether or not want to do something with regard to dating online or with apps. That's one thing. In person, I think, and knowing who people are and telling people you're single and telling people you're interested in meeting somebody is important. I think not making a date all or none is super important. I've always thought that. I think that, when you go out there because you want to meet somebody versus meet people, it puts a lot of pressure on you. And I think that I
Mm,
don't advise that. I think that you go out there, like sometimes it's gonna work, sometimes it's not gonna work, sometimes a person might be in your life for different reasons. But I think that's important to keep in mind because we have a lot more access than we ever have before to each other
yeah,
quickly.
yeah. So something that you share is you were in a relationship with somebody that had narcissistic behaviors. And back then, we didn't even like wait, this word narcissist is new, right? It's been around for just a
Yeah.
few years, I would say. And now maybe we understand more. There's a lot more discussion around it, a lot more education around it. I mean, I'm hosting a summit in April with
Hmm.
Dr. Ramani, and that's her specialty is
Yeah.
helping people identify behaviors so that
Yeah.
we're
That's
not
great.
getting caught in these relationships. And if we are, how do we get out and how do we heal
Mhm.
or deal? So, Thompson, tell me how and what I just because I found myself in that situation, like, and you know, this keeps happening. I'm talking to women that are smart, educated, successful, beautiful, outstanding people that are ending up in these very bad, unhealthy relationship dynamics. And it's like, how? Why? How is this happening?
Yeah.
And so, what is your understanding from your experience around this? Like, what I would just be interested, I'm curious to learn your perspective on this.
Sure, of why people end up in bad relationships. Look,
Or,
I did. I
yeah,
several. I think sometimes we all bring a lot into a relationship like that, and I think that that's important to remember. I mean, I brought all my past into my relationships. There was a lot of stuff in my past that really informed where how I dated and who I met and how I felt about myself and how much I respected myself or didn't respect myself. So I think that's how
mm,
some of that happens. I also think some people are very wise and know how to manipulate people. And unfortunately, when you've got somebody that is not like that and somebody that is, you have a really bad and toxic relationship as a result. And, when that happens, it's not often very easy to get out of those things. And hopefully, you've got some people around you that can see what's going on and can help you, or you're talking to a therapist, you're talking to somebody that can help you through that because I mean, I know from experience, it's not easy. And once you get caught into that cycle, it can be very difficult to get out of.
right. So you're happily married now, remarried, and I see your post and you're sharing your relationship. From a glimpse, we can all see a little bit. It looks like just a very beautiful, happy relationship. So what before, like while you were dating, before you met your husband, like what was it inside yourself or your intentions or what you were putting out there to be like, okay, this is how I'm going to do things differently? Like, did you have a clear mindset about how you wanted to enter into a new relationship?
Yeah, I really wasn't trying to enter a new relationship, honestly. I was single and I was okay being single. I wasn't looking for one.
Mm,
It's always something my husband and I laugh about because neither one of us were. We were just kind of like doing our thing. And I wasn't in a place where I wanted to get remarried for sure. But I met somebody that, was really amazing and really somebody that I wanted to, walk the world with. And that was really nice surprise, a very nice surprise.
oh my gosh, I just love how you said that. Just walk the world with.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. So, can you tell us about your new book that's coming out in March? Because I'm very excited to read it and just like
Yeah.
what tell us what it's all about.
You're so kind. Yeah, it's called How to Menopause, Take Charge of Your Health, Reclaim Your Life, and Feel Better Than Before, even better than before. I wanted this to be really expert driven because there are some really incredible experts out there that I think are really helpful and have helped me. So I wanted to create kind of a menopause guide or manual to help cut through that chaos. I think it's a really difficult time in a woman's life. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot going on, not very easy to concentrate. And I want to help
Mm,
people stop asking the questions questions, what is happening to me and why did no one tell me this? And so that's really what How to Menopause is about. It's got actionable steps, evidence-based tools. I've got over 42 experts in there interviewed. And, we talk about things that happen after you leave the doctor's office. What happens there, how to deal with your appointments, what questions to ask, and then what to do afterwards. So we go into a lot of different pieces of advice for other parts of your life. And I felt like with the relationship background, it was important to draw from that, talk about sex, talk about work. Workplace is a huge part of this conversation, and I think it was really necessary to add that to this book.
Well, you're doing so much good work, Tamsen,
Thank you.
and I'm very excited. Like the documentary is fantastic. We are
Wonderful.
learning so much. So it's changing
Wonderful.
perspectives and
Right.
educating.
Wonderful.
So thank you very much, and I can't wait to read your book. And it's been a pleasure
Thank
talking to
you.
you. So thank you so much for being on our show today. Thank you so much for listening. Visit realloveready.com to continue learning with us. Please rate and review this podcast. Your feedback helps us get you the tools and guidance you need to form more loving relationships and create positive change in your life. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well. Many blessings and much love.